Welcome to video number 5. I hope you are still enjoying yourself and you are learning something. And I also hope you've started using some of the techniques or some of what we have shared to actually heighten your awareness. So in video number 5, we're talking about values as the triggers of your emotions. Now, as you will know, we're not born with values. We learn values from socialization, either from our caregivers, from the school system, from our parents, from our grandmothers. But the challenge with values is that a lot of us have what we call unconscious inheritances. So we inherit the values of other people. And when we're old enough, we actually don't sit back and individuate and take ownership of our values and take stock and ask yourself, is this the value I want to be known for? Is this really what I want to represent myself with in my life? So values are important. We need to become aware of them so that we can consciously live them out. Why is it important to become consciously aware of your values? Because they operate from under the radar and they influence your behavior on a daily basis. Your values, when they are supported or triggered, you experience an emotion. When they are violated or unsupported, you experience a negative emotion. But when they are supported, you experience a positive emotion. But here's what often happens. Because we are not consciously aware of these values, often when a value is triggered or violated, we project it externally. We make it other people's issue to live out the value. Values are our own, and we need to be able to live these values ourselves. And the more we become consciously aware of the values, the more we can actually expand our options to actually live out our values. I would like to use the iceberg as my metaphor, and I'm going to just here quickly draw an iceberg and just to show you how values are generated or values are formed. As I mentioned earlier on, we're not really born with values, but human beings are the same in essence. We all seek the same things. So we've got motives that we all seek to fulfill. And these motives are what I will talk about now in how they actually lead to the generation or formation of values. I'm going to use a metaphor of an iceberg. As you know, human beings are like an iceberg. What you see of them is not the whole story. They've got that invisible force that drives them, that lies underneath. And what lies underneath, one of the things that lies underneath is your motives, it is your values, your self-image, and your traits. But I just want to explain how values are actually formed or generated from your motives, and how that actually influences the emotions that you actually experience as a result of your values being supported or being violated. So, as human beings are like an iceberg, I'm going to draw that illustration of an iceberg. And with that, you realize that we all have the same motives. So these are the things that we all want to fulfill. And of those motives, there are about 6 motives that Tony Robbins actually came about. And he talks about significance. We all want to feel important. Everybody wants to feel important. Even babies, they want to feel important. We all want to feel loved. So connection is important for everybody. So that is a motive. Everyone is seeking for this. And we all want to contribute. Even at a very young age, babies start learning how or what they actually want to contribute. They start helping you with this and that. They ask you to help because they want to actually contribute. We all want variety. So we get tired of doing things the same way or being with the same thing. So we want some form of variety. We want variety. And we all want to feel secure. Whether that is financial security, whether it is relationship security, everybody wants to feel secure. And we all want to grow. No human being wants to stagnate. So you want to grow, whether that growth is family, getting married, getting a new job, getting up the corporate ladder, or it is, financial freedom, whatever growth looks like for you. So we all have the same things. We are seeking the same things. These are the 6 core motives. But here's the challenge. When we are young, when we are born and we're young, between, I think, the age of, from the time we're born up to about 15 years, we have no control over how people allow us to meet or achieve these needs. So we rely on others, we rely on caregivers, we rely on our teachers for them to actually allow us to meet these core motives. Now, if these core motives are not met in your childhood, or they are met, so we generate our values from our positive or negative emotional states. What do I mean by that? When these are met or not met, you generate a value. So possibly you come up from a close-knit family where you do everything together, you feel loved, you feel the connection. When you grow up, you might actually have a value that says, love is one important value for me. I value dependence, I value connection, because of how your core motives were met in your childhood. What if you didn't feel loved or connected? You might actually generate a value that says independence. Because while you realize that this is important for you, the way it was actually allowed for you to meet it in your early years might have caused some form of pain. So as a result, now what you connect love with is pain. So what do you want to do to run away from pain? You actually form a value that says independence. Let me try to keep myself away from connecting with others. The challenge though is that you cannot need what you are born needing. So our motives, whether we run away from them or we don't, whether we say, I don't want to be loved, I can be okay on my own, you are going to one day come back to these motives because they're important. So you cannot not contribute. It's human need. You are born with it. So you cannot not need it. You are born with it, so you need it. So our values are generated from our ability in our early years to meet or not meet our core motives. Now, when you generate this value, it becomes a pointer. It becomes a pointer that says this is important to me. Let me give maybe an example. So one of my key values, because of the nature of the family that I grew up in, is independence. So I grew up in a family where my father was abusive, and when he was abusive, for me, then the way I interpreted the whole issue was, how does someone do this to a person that they love? How do I protect myself so that I'm not hurt further? So I decided to generate a value that is known as independence, so that I don't actually get hurt when I am going through my own personal life. Now, I also generated from the same a value called responsibility. So I must take responsibility. I must actually look after, my family and whoever I am responsible for, based on how I grew up. Now, let me tell you why values actually are the triggers of emotions. I'll give you an example, a personal life story of mine, that while I lived with this value called responsibility, unaware, like I said, it then lives in your unconscious mind. You're not consciously aware that this is one of your values. So after going through my life, I'll tell you that I have nieces that I've had to take care of because one of my sisters has passed on. So with that, I had an expectation when the two finished their university that they will be able to help me with looking after the little ones, the two that are still in high school. So one time we had this experience where the girls in high school needed a visit at their boarding school. So I had a chat with one of my older nieces and I said to her, the girls do have a visiting Sunday. What do we do? And she says to me, well, I don't have money. And I also said to her, well, I also don't have money, because I just wanted her to, come up with a plan. If we all don't have money, then what do we do? And then she said, well, someone owes me 800 Rand. Let me go and take that 800 Rand and send it. So immediately she said that I sent 1,600 Rand. And after I sent the 1,600 Rand, I then send a message to say, I've sent 1,600. Please deposit the 800 Rand in my account. And she said to me, I can only give you 500 Rand. And I said to her, what happened? And then she said, in future, when you're sending money, please consult me first so that I can tell you what I'm able to do. And I said to her, if you scroll down this chart, you realize that I've been trying to consult you. And then she said to me, well, it's not my fault that my father and my mother passed away. Otherwise, they would have been able to look after the girls. So I said in response, dying is not the issue here. The issue is looking after the girls so that they can become independent just like you and I. I seem to notice there's an expectation that I must carry on doing this on my own, yet I expect everybody to come to the party. And her response was, that is a conversation with yourself. And boy, you can imagine how I was feeling. I was feeling angry. Lucky it was a chart, so she was not close by so that I could quickly jump out of my body and fix her. But what I realized after that is, I said to her, thank you for saying that. At that point, I didn't actually mean to say thank you, but I didn't know what else to say. So I said, thank you. Thank God for this work that I do. After feeling the negative emotion, the anger, I went shopping, quick retail therapy, so that I could feel better about my emotions. I quickly looked for a Panadol, which is what most of us do. We then quickly look for a Panadol, whether it is alcohol, whether it is sex, whether it is shopping and spending money that you don't have as a result of actually the inability to manage the emotions that have resulted from one of your values being triggered. So after I came back from the shopping, I came back and I looked at my value board and I said, you experience the anger, the annoyance, and whatever negative emotion you experience because one of your values has been violated. So I went to my value board and I looked at family and I realized top of the value, on top of, one of my top 3 values is actually responsibility. So I realized that I felt angry, not because of her, and she was right. I was actually having a conversation with myself unaware. The value responsibility is mine. It's my own. I have the responsibility of living that responsibility because it's my value. But many of us, because we are unaware of this value, we project it outside. We expect other people to live out our values. Yet, we've not actually asked them what their values are around family. We've actually not done a proper alignment where we discuss values and we ask, what do you value? Why is this important to you? How can we support each other's value? Because this is what is important to me. So this is what often happens in many relationships. We all have unconscious values that we are unaware of, that we don't declare or talk about so that we find the necessary support. And these values get violated unaware, and we respond unaware, and we project the values unaware. And as a result, we are unable to actually live out this value. The moment I became conscious of the value responsibility, I became peaceful. Now I do it without expecting somebody else to do it because I realize if I don't do it, I'm the one who's going to lose out sleep. If you look at great icons, there are people who have lived out their values. So if we need to be emotionally peaceful, we need the ability to live out our values. Now the question I'll ask you is, what values do you have in the 7 key areas of your life? So we've got 7 key areas of our life that we all want to fulfill, and these 7 key areas of our life includes your social life, your mental, your family, your spiritual, your financial, your physical body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And your vocational, which is your career. So instead of brainstorming or getting into your brainstorming mode, think about the values that you live out. And I also want you to remember the emotional state that you generated that value. What is the value? What emotional state formed that particular value? And when this value is being violated or supported, are you aware of it? When you're aware of a value that is being supported, you'll be able to look for similar environments where your values can be supported. When you're aware where your values are being violated, you'll be able to expand your options to live out your values. Now, so you've got motives, you've got values, and you also have a self-image. This lies under the radar. What you see at the top of the iceberg is behavior, which is only 10% of the story. 90% lies underneath, and we need to unpack this for us to be able to manage our own emotions.